All right, this video is going to be about upper body training. That's a really wide open topic. It's going to follow similar protocol to lower body training. There'll be more exercises because functional movement patterns in the upper body are a little bit more complex. And they target muscles essentially from here, right below the nipples to basically to the neck, shoulders, arms, and then the upper back muscles. This training is catered to somebody who has bought a kettlebell to facilitate the lower body training, and it also may assume that you have multiple kettlebells. I'm going to show single arm versions and double arm versions of movement patterns so that if the kettlebell is too heavy to be done single arm, it can be done with two arms, or vice versa. If it's too light to really do much using two arms, you can do the one arm version. So the first movement we're going to look at is the basic push-up. So how do you progress the push-up? If you're a woman, a push-up will come much harder because most of women's muscle density and center of balance is through the hips and legs, which means there will be a larger disparity between their upper body and lower body strength naturally. Doesn't mean that a woman can't do many push-ups, but take a man and woman untrained, it's likely that the man will have a higher starting threshold for push-ups than a woman would in general. There are obviously exceptions to the rule. So for anyone, it doesn't really matter. It just depends on your ability to begin with. I don't have a wall here, but let's say you're at home. You want to come up and start at a high angle, right? So the way you do this push movement is, a lot of people do push-ups like this where the arms come 90. That's going to impinge your rotator cuff over time if you don't know how to set the shoulder. It's also not conducive to a strong position. If you think about like linemen in football, they don't push somebody like this. They grab pads like this. They grab pads and shuck the opposing lineman. And so the same way when you do a push-up, you want the elbows to be tucked down. So not completely down, but like when elbows come down, they track below the shoulder line 45 degrees. So pretend this is a wall. I don't really have a lot of open wall space in here. Demonstrate this. Pretend this is a wall at your house. I'm going to show open hands to kind of simulate that. Well, let's say you come up to it and you just kind of push to here, keeping the elbows kind of tucked. Okay, that's easy. Well, let's pretend you find another object that is a little bit lower. Let's say a couch, a piece of furniture in the back of the couch, something else. It's a little bit easier. Let's make sure I'm just moving the bar down to simulate a different object. You don't have to use a bar. It can be anything. You can go out to your car hood for all that matters, right? Now I'm here, and I'm doing my pressing. I'm working to that. All right, well that's too easy. All right, well you keep working down, you find lower and lower objects. So I'll show this object. This is a bench. Let me make sure this can actually be seen in the video. Nope, cannot. So let's move it. All right, so this is a bench. This would be like when it's starting to sort of look like a push-up. This could be like the sitting portion of your couch versus the back of your couch. You would want to get like this, with the core and the body like this, and you lower yourself to it. Keep working your way down. Let me make sure that we can see the floor for the next part. Let's get it pointed down just a little bit, all right? So the way you progress the floor, when you get to the floor, it's long term, you draw the knees up and you push like this. Remember those elbows staying at 45 degrees. In the final version, obviously the standard push-up. That's a good frontal, or I guess horizontal axis pushing motion. All right, so what do we do to complement this? We didn't need a kettlebell for this movement, just because the basic push-ups that good. How do we do a rowing type motion? So a pulling towards you type motion. Let me make sure the camera's good again. Okay, we're good. So let's say we have a kettlebell. we don't know if it's heavy enough or not. I'm going to show a single arm version and a 2-arm version for this. We bring this bench back too, just as an option, depending on physical level and ability. First objects, the first motions, the push-up variations I've showed. Well, here's the next option. This is a couch, whatever. If you don't have a couch, you can just brace yourself on your own knee. That's not as fun, but it does work. You come up, let's assume you got a couch or something. You take your kettlebell and you do pulls. Let it hang, pull, basically till your elbows kind of tracking towards, you can imagine your pocket in your pants, like this. Do your reps on one side. Do your reps on another side. And that's one set. And you got to keep the sides equal. Do that motion. Okay, well, let's say the kettlebell you have is too heavy to be doing that with one arm. Well, let's take the cheapest hand towel they sell at Walmart. I got this towel when I was in college in 2016. I don't know, it was $1.50 then. Who knows what it is in today's money, maybe $3, terrifyingly enough. And wrap it through the handle. This converts this kettlebell into a 2-arm device. Bend over slightly. We're going to start with the hands supinated, which means palms facing my face. We're going to, so supinated, and then pronated down. Supinated, pronated, supinated, pronated. Pronated means hands facing my legs. You can try it that way. You can also try starting supinated in this position, pronated in this position, and then rotating supinated. That's my personal favorite, just to start pronated, supinated. Whatever gets the best squeeze result. This likely will, the pronated to supinated, which means you're basically taking your arm and corkscrewing it as you pull. It just affects the way that the shoulder and elbow track, give you a better back contraction. That works the upper back and complements that. All right. Another movement we can do. Let's go to foundational movement. Take the kettlebell, pull it up with 2 hands, kind of rest on the shoulder in one hand. And now what we're going to do is make sure that I have enough visual top range. Okay, yeah, we do. Just want to make sure my arm doesn't cut off. Here, press, down, press, down, press. Okay, that's one side. Take it, the other side, help it up. Press, press, press. All right, well, what if the kettlebell's too heavy? Remember, this is a kettlebell we bought to be good for the lower and upper body. Well, you can come down, grab it like this, rotate it up. Make sure your hands have a very, very solid grasp on the kettlebell when you go overhead, unless you'd like a lobotomy. Press, press. If the kettlebell's too heavy, single. Walk into it like this if you don't want to buy another one. Just like this. And remember, I'm not flailing the elbows. I'm keeping them tucked, driving through. Think about linemen in college, driving through with the elbow and shoulder stacked. You don't want to press with chicken wing style pressing. All right, so we have 3 exercises so far. We got the push-up variations, working to that. We got the row that I showed you, where you can do it with single arm or a towel through it, depending on how heavy it is. Then we got the overhead press, where you can do that single arm or 2-arm. One final movement I would give a beginner is we want to work something that's like a shoulder stimulator, an upper back stimulator. So it's a combination kind of like a high pull and a side lateral raise, which side lateral raises you see we'll do with dumbbells like this, and then a high pulls like this. But all that to say, who really cares about that right now? Take a kettlebell like this, pull it up to about sternum height. Key with this movement, do not reverse curl it. That's the elbow staying stationary. In this movement, hands need to stay higher, hands need to stay lower than the elbows. So elbows lead the movement. See how their elbows are higher? Higher. That's the movement. Elbows high. You can imagine trying to think about like taking something up and putting it in a truck bed that's high. Similar motion. Okay, well let's say that handle pisses off your wrists or your fingers. Well, take a towel through it. This is our $1.50 to $3 cheap hand towel. Pull. Same motion. Hands pointed down a little bit because of the towel. Maybe it offers you a little more flexibility. Pull. 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 All right, that's the two variations I want to show for that movement. All right, well, let's think about the arms explicitly. You're getting arm stimulation through any of those workouts. You want to always prioritize the more centralized muscles in the body before you prioritize more external muscles, because it's basically like the concept of you want a solid foundation. There's no point in strapping a cannon to a paddle boat, because you set the cannon off, the paddle boat's going to get wrecked. So let's start with biceps, for instance. So biceps, you might think at first that doing a curl like this with a kettlebell is a good idea. And you can do that, it is effective. The problem is, kettlebell always wants to stay pointed to the ground. It's going to crank on the skin in your hands. And it's just not as kind. It just doesn't feel as good as doing it, in my opinion, with the dumbbell. So, take the kettlebell. Stick a towel through the handle. Watch your knees when you do this, unless you'd like a knee replacement. Starting with thumbs up, neutral grip. You're going to take it and you're going to curl. Now when you curl, you want to think about bringing the pinky towards the nose. So you're starting in a hammer position and you're going to have to fight that towel to come out. So I'm starting in this position down low, curling it up, curling it up, curling it up. So that's one exercise. The other exercise, let's say that's too light. Well, take the towel, really pay attention when you do this. Pinch it off with your hand. It's going to be a grip strength workout. Take the kettlebell, single towel, hammer curl it. Hammer curl means that your hand stays neutral. It's not supinated or pronated. It stays like this. So all your reps can be done like this. Probably won't be an issue at first, but if you want to do it, take a shot. Other side. Same thing. All right, triceps should have gotten some good work in that push-up variation. This one will probably be very advanced because you'll need a partner to try it first, because if it gets away from you, you crack the back of your skull. But it really does target. So basically, the higher your elbow goes when you're doing tricep work, it's the back of the arm, the higher you go, the higher up the muscle it stimulates. So when I'm doing pushing from this position, I have the most stimulation of the portion of the tricep that most people complain about for appearance, the upper large head of the tricep. So take kettlebell. You can have your helper hand this to you, or you can just be really careful, kind of come behind, let it hang. Now the key, as you can see, is you got to have really good flexibility for this, because it's resting on my back now, but once it gets moving, you can crack your skull if you're not careful. So this is not a necessary movement, but if one you want to try it, do so with caution. But you raise up, raise down, show it from a different angle. Raise up, raise down. Raise up, raise down. The hard thing about that is when you get to a point where you're really fatigued, you basically need someone to help you put it down. So if you have a helper to help you do it, do it. If not, don't worry about it. You'll probably already be really freaking sore just from the first exercises we did. So those are some basic key upper body exercises I would start somebody with if they've only bought one or two kettlebells and towels. I mean, everybody's got a Walmart or something like that. They can get a cheap hand. You might have someone laying around. I will say about the hand towel, you want it really cheap because you want it paper thin. You want that really undesirable hand towel that a rental uses. Because if they get really thick and they're luxurious, you're ruining a good towel, but also they squish more and it makes it harder to hold in the hand. It becomes more of a grip workout than it does basically the upstream muscle you're trying to target. You don't want to waste your time with that early on. So the rep scheme with these is similar. You want 3 or 4 sets of 8 to 15. I would prioritize them in the order I showed you: the pushing movement, the pulling movement, then the shoulder movement. Then if you got any steam left, do the bicep movement and tricep if you got somebody with you. Your biceps and triceps are already getting stimulated in those primary compound movements, and compound means multi-joint movement. So like the elbow and the shoulder both moving instead of just the elbow joint. So very similar. You can work this in. I would always prioritize the lower body workouts I've already demonstrated in the previous video, but these can be something you can add in the other days. Don't be surprised when you bend over to do things like a row after you've done your deadlifts. Kettlebell, this position does not feel fabulous. There may be some carryover of soreness between the two, so adjust accordingly. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful.